Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or good evening. Whenever you are getting a chance to listen to this, it's Emma Watson here, and I'm chatting with Sue Hughes today. We're going to talk about hunger and how we actually know when we're hungry. But before we get to that, how are you, Sue? Welcome. It's good to see you.
I'm good. It's always good to see you, Emma.
So it's an interesting topic, this one, isn't it? Because it should be straightforward. We should, in theory, know when we're hungry and eat when we're hungry and then stop when we're not. But I don't know about for you, Sue, but it was way more complicated than that back in
Oh,
the day for me.
definitely. I think the words that immediately come to mind are blurred edges. So there would be elements of real hunger, but I wouldn't necessarily recognise them as such. I knew that I had to put some food in my body, but I wasn't quite sure. It was a very confused place in my head.
I really like that, blurred edges. I can relate to that, Sue.
Yes, because there certainly were real hunger pangs, particularly in the middle of a dieting phase, genuine hunger pangs, and a sort of, oh, I'm genuinely hungry, I'm going to eat, I'm on a diet, therefore I can have this. And then still feeling strange feelings, but not quite sure whether they were hunger or not, and never ever being fully satisfied, particularly in a diet phase. There was a sort of punitive element in it for me, that actually you're dieting, you should be hungry, you should be punishing yourself because you are too fat, you are not a nice person, you are a loathsome object, you are, every time you look in the mirror. I mean, I'm not saying that I went through this whole tortuous thing consciously, but there was a punitive element to it. I don't know. How about you?
Oh, so absolutely. And I would get so super strict with myself. I'd have this real rigidity of being able to override my body's messages just because I was following whatever plan I was on at the time. And I think my body just sort of gave up and just stopped sending hunger messages. I remember saying at the time, I rarely feel hunger, and it was true. But I think I had just gotten so good at just completely disconnecting from my body, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have had the foggiest.
No, and yet there's a reassurance that our sort of, what I'd call our prehistoric brain, has got some very basic signals, and it was still keeping on going on. And as sort of tapping down through the layers, it was always like a sigh of relief. Up came this dinosaur. I'm hunger. This is what you need to do. Please feed me now. It's actually really simple. It's very simple things like breathing, or one of the very, very basic simple things that all living creatures have. I am hungry, give me food. But in this emotional maelstrom, we lost it.
I do remember feeling hungry once, and I was in a low carb phase. I'm sure you've had low carb phases, Sue. And I'd had berries for breakfast, and I'd gone to work. And I remember mid-morning, my stomach actually sort of rumbling and sort of feeling. And I was like, "Oh, this is what hunger feels like."
Yeah, yeah. But differentiating between the two, particularly if you're in an emotionally aroused state, and that sort of the levels of the fight part of the fight, flight, freeze thing, you cannot differentiate, because there's all these sensations going on, and yet you don't want to feel any of them, so they all get submerged.
Yes. And when I was out of dieting phase, if I felt any of those feelings, I'd eat in case it was hunger. Even if I didn't know it was, in case it was.
Oh, there's a feeling.
That's
Smother
right.
it.
Smother it. Eat. So it was this strict and disconnected to this might be hungry. Let's eat in case we are. Oh,
Yes.
gosh.
And then confusing hunger and thirst.
Mm.
That particularly in the diet phase can be really yeah, all these mixed messages, and not actually coming down to who we really are with our basic needs, our basic wants. Yeah, not a good place to be. Not a good place to be.
So where are you at with that now, Sue, and what's changed for you personally?
Well, recognizing real hunger, and finding a way of eating that actually is absolutely only my own, because I am a unique person. I'm sure there are helpful plans out there. I'm not knocking all the plans, but you need to find your own way, and there's a real vulnerability in that in case of getting it wrong. So am I there completely? No, I don't think I am, but I'm so much more in a good place. I mean, I remember having issues, we talked about carbs, and I know for me, I do need some carbs during the day. I lose weight. If I want to lose weight, I lose weight more effectively if I have less carbs. But actually, that produces that sort of dieting mentality, which I want to get away from. So my sort of natural way of operating, I've worked out what, and we've talked in the past about what we actually eat during the day. But there's no longer the fear of hunger. So at about 12 midday, having had my breakfast, usually about 8 o'clock in the morning, about 12 midday, there is this sort of feeling in the pit of my stomach, which I now recognize as hunger. If I've got things to do, I'll have a drink until lunchtime, because unlike you, I do try not to snack, because for me it's not so helpful. I don't say completely no to snacking, and I'll have a piece of fruit or something, but then I will have a reasonable lunch. Sometimes I feel equipped to have a smaller plate of food, but if I want something extra, I will have it, because I know that down the line my body will be telling me, I am hungry, feed me now. And if I don't actually feed it, then I will fall into an unhelpful pattern of wanting to unhelpfully snack later. So that's how things have changed really for me. I know what works for me. I'm not always confident to follow it, particularly if I feel that I'm carrying a couple of extra kilos. I don't want to feel that, because it may distract me, because I'm not as far down that road. I'm not as comfortable in that position as you are yet. But I'm getting there. And I come back to this norm of food, allow the hunger to develop. No, I am hungry, have food, be satisfied, move on away from the food, and allow that cycle to just sort of continue, and not to celebrate either the hunger or the overfullness. Does that make any sense?
It does. And yeah, I really liked what you said there, Sue. And it really does come back to just being more connected, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And being willing to listen to our own counsel, listen to our own bodies, and not not put our health always in the hands of some latest diet book, which I was doing all the time back then.
Yeah, but also self-forgiveness. If stuff is difficult for you, if you're in a difficult period of your life, and we were referring to this, I think, in our last video, there's things that we can do to prevent real hunger, and there's things that we can do to prevent emotional pain. Differentiating between the two is really hard, but actually, if we slip up and we stray one side or the other, it really doesn't matter. Our bodies are very, very forgiving of us, providing we listen. It's like a relationship with any other person. Listen.
I think meditation's probably helped me there, Sue. I mean, certainly the tapping has, but for me, meditation's helped me learn those skills in self-compassion and self-forgiveness. and have made, and the type of meditations I've done, some of the body-based scans, which I avoided, interestingly, for a while, they've also helped.
Interesting. Very interesting.
It's been the combination of the two modalities there that have made the shift.
Oh golly, we could go on forever on this.
We could, Sue.
But we better not.
We better not. Well, lovely to talk to you this morning.
And
thanks for sharing so much, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye.